The magical pivot point, MPP. The MPP is the optimal right hip joint position at the start of the downswing, which rotates the hips at high speed and maximizes the speed of the club head. Master the MPP in any swing to create the ideal club head trajectory. To optimize the functionality of the MPP, it is ideal to rotate the navel 120 to 160 degrees towards the left toe at high speed at the start of the downswing. This allows the left hip to quickly rotate backwards to the left rear and the upper body to change direction from right to left at once. The rotation of the central part of the body moves a short distance in a short amount of time with little force required, because the moment of inertia is small. In other words, it can rotate at high speeds. At this time, if there is extra force in both arms, especially both hands, a large moment of inertia with a large turning radius will occur, which will slow down the speed of the club head. It is crucial to concentrate the power of the entire body on the center of the body. The Robot Swing Laboratory has named this position of the right hip joint the magical pivot point, MPP. If the MPP is in the appropriate position, the swing will be stable. The recent trend in golf swings seems to be towards a more compact swing that revolves around the center of the body, without much movement of the hips. This is particularly noticeable in the swings of female professional golfers. Despite being less powerful than male professional golfers, female golfers generally hit longer drives than the average amateur golfer due to their ability to rotate their bodies at high speeds. The distinctive feature of their swing is the momentary rotation of the body from the downswing to the finish. They are hitting stable long driver shots with a compact swing that requires less force. This type of swing is made possible by the MPP. By mastering the MPP, anyone can make steady shots regardless of their swing style. The moment of inertia of a golf swing. The magnitude of the moment of inertia affects the rotation speed of the object. A larger inertia moment makes it difficult for an object to rotate, while a smaller moment of inertia makes it easier to rotate. In golf swings, a smaller inertia moment allows for faster rotation. While athletes can improve their swing speed by strengthening their core and arms, it can be challenging for amateur or female golfers in general. Instead, they should focus on achieving a swing with a lower moment of inertia to enhance shot stability and increase driver distance. It will be easy to understand if you imagine the spin of a figure skater. At the beginning of the spin, both arms are extended straight out horizontally. The rotation speed of the spin is not fast. It's because there is mass outside of the turning radius. A little after starting the spin, the arms are brought into close contact with the body. This will increase the rotation speed of the spin and make it spin faster. This is because the mass is concentrated in the center of the body, reducing the moment of inertia. An ideal swing with a small moment of inertia is one where the force is concentrated in the center of the body, and there is no force in the parts of the body that are far away from it. To achieve a fast swing, you need to pivot your hips quickly at the MPP, which is determined by the sensation of the arms and hands lifting the club head. You should then rotate your upper body to complete the high-speed swing. There is no actual axis of rotation in a golf swing. A golf swing involves standing on both feet and swinging the club. It is sometimes said that the spine is the axis of rotation for the golf swing, but the spine is only extending to the pelvis. Since it is not in contact with the ground, it's not exactly the axis of rotation. Therefore, this analogy involves being conscious of the virtual axis of rotation. It will take a considerable amount of time to be able to consistently swing the same axis of rotation that is not in contact with the ground at the exact position every time, and it is difficult to obtain a stable axis of rotation. Moreover, golf swings do not always take place on a flat ground, so it takes many rounds of experience to be able to hit a stable shot anywhere like a professional golfer or an advanced golfer. Therefore the method of placing this virtual axis in an ideally stable position becomes a shortcut to creating a highly reproducible swing. To do this it is necessary to use the left and right feet as a reference which are in contact with the ground. Both feet are pressing on the ground with heels and toes. If this position does not change during the swing, the imaginary axis of rotation can be stabilized. Next is to determine the axis of rotation that serves as a reference point when rotating the hips. If you imagine rotating your hips moving your left and right legs or both knees, it not only makes it difficult to rotate your hips at high speed, but it also makes the axis unstable. It's like car tires slipping on a snowy or icy road. You may think you are rotating your hips at high speed, but because the foundation supporting the rotating hips is also rotating. Now what if we use the right hip joint as the axis of rotation for the left hip? Use the right hip joint as the pivot point without moving it. From the backswing to the top position, the left hip rotates forward. At the start of the downswing, rotate the left hip rapidly backward and toward the left buttock using the right hip joint as the pivot point. If you have a movement to extend the slightly bent left knee at this time, it will accelerate the rotation speed of your left hip. Once the left hip has rotated sufficiently, the left hip joint becomes the pivot point and the right hip rotates towards the target direction. This rotation of the pelvic acts as a virtual axis of rotation for the entire hip located around the middle of the navel and tailbone. Therefore, if the position of the right hip joint is stable at the start of the downswing, the virtual axis of rotation of the swing will remain constant. In other words, the prerequisite for a stable club head trajectory is established. Regardless of the style of golf swing, if there is an MPP, the swing will be stable. Mastering the MPP. Acquiring the MPP is not as difficult as it sounds. The MPP is the position of the right hip joint at the top position of the swing. In this article we will provide you the basic instructions, so adjust the position of the right hip joint according to your swing style. First, check the position of the right hip joint at address. If your weight is evenly distributed on both feet, your right hip joint should be slightly inside the right ankle. Rotate your upper body and hips to the right on the backswing. If you rotate around your spine, your right hip joint will move slightly backward. Extend your right knee and bend your left knee slightly. Move your left hip joint slightly forward. At the same time, move the position of the right hip joint closer to the center of your body. Imagine that you are bending the right hip joint a little more deeply. Your left knee should not move towards your right knee. Instead, your left knee should be facing the direction of your left toe. The position of the right hip joint at this point will be the MPP. During the downswing, the right hip joint serves as the pivot point for rotation. This position should remain unchanged until the left hip fully rotates. It's not a problem if your right hip joint to move in the target direction during downswing. Turn your left hip from impact to follow through all at once. Straightening your slightly bent left knee also helps to accelerate the rotation of your hips. As soon as your hips begin to rotate, rotate your upper body to the left. To increase the rotation speed, imagine turning your chest facing left while it was facing right. If your arms or hands are getting ahead of the rotation of your hips in the downswing, try moving your left hip slightly towards your left foot toe at the top position of your swing to generate some recoil. And then give a quick twist of your left hip backwards. Both arms are swung in sync with the rotation of the hips and upper body. If you try to swing the club widely, you'll risk swinging too late and losing power. During the downswing, aim for a darts shot where the grip end points to the lowest point of the club head. The trajectory of the club head will be more linear towards the ball. When your left hip is sufficiently turned, extend your right knee, and rotate your right hip in the direction of your target. Your pivot point during this movement will be your left hip joint. In the finish, your swing will be a beautiful one with both legs extended and a straightened back. If you have an unstable position of your right hip joint, you can also consider a robotic idea of using your right foot as a support. Suppose your right foot is a stake planted in the ground. At the tip of the stake, there is a motor that rotates your left hip during the downswing. With this image in mind, your right hip joint stays fixed, allowing your left hip to rotate smoothly at high speed.